Hey everybody, Ryan Medora here, and welcome back to another bass lesson. And today we're going to explore funk grooves and using the Dorian mode. So we've got a little bit of theory, a little bit of grooving, all the good stuff. If you want to get tab or notation, anything to go along with this, backing tracks, you can practice to, head over to my Patreon page and you can find it there and support this channel. You can also like and subscribe and do all the fun things. But in the meantime, we're going to talk a little bit about the theory behind the Dorian mode and why it's so funky. Because a lot of times people are like, oh, how do I come up with a bass line? How is that so cool? Why is, the bass groove to good times so rad? The answer is Dorian. So it's one of the modes. And if you're not familiar with a mode, basically, we have scales and we have modes. You've probably played the major scale and the minor scale. The modes are basically versions of scales. And if you were to say, hey, we're in the key of C and we're going to play a C major scale, that's known as the Ionian mode. And then as you move up the scale and you start on different notes and you play through that sequence, you end up building different modes. So if I were to stick to the notes of C major and play, instead of C to C, D to D, using only the notes of the key of C, so instead of going C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C up the major scale, if you started on D and just did that same sequence, you would have D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. Again, no sharps, no flats, still sticking with my home letters of the key of C. That builds the Dorian mode. And you can kind of hear how this has this unique character to it. It sounds minor, which is because it has a minor third, and it's got this quality to it that, again, is not really like a C major scale, even though it's using the same notes, but because we're playing from D to D, the intervals are different, the relationships are different. And it just so happens that as we're playing this, we'll find that the scale, or the mode rather, starts on the root note, D, then goes to E, which is a second. The F would be the minor third in this case. The G is the fourth. The A is the fifth. The B is the major sixth. The C is the minor seventh. And then the D is the octave. So the interesting thing about this is that it is qualities of a minor scale, the flatted third or the minor third, and the flatted seventh, the minor seventh, but it also has qualities of the major scale, like the sixth. So unlike a minor scale would just have the regular root, second, minor third, fourth, fifth, minor sixth, minor seventh, octave, the Dorian mode is very similar to the minor scale, but it has a major sixth instead. That's really the one difference from just a scale degree standpoint between the Dorian mode and the minor scale. But you can hear that major sixth is kind of a cool thing. And it does differentiate it from regular minor, but it is kind of considered this minor sounding mode because it has a minor third. Now, there are a lot of different ways that you can play this. And one thing to know too is that as we're playing a Dorian mode, any of the notes are fair game. So whether I decide to ascend, descend, I could keep kind of going. Anywhere I play these notes or whatever sequence of these notes will all kind of let me live in Dorian. So it's really helpful if you're kind of coming up with grooves or jamming or you need something to solo over. It's a really useful concept for that. It also works particularly well over a specific set of chord changes, specifically what we would call a 2 minor 7 to a 5 dominant, or in this case, a D minor 7 to a G7. Now, the reason I say a 2 minor 7 to 5 is because if we were in the home key of C, and we played a D minor 7 to a G7, that would kind of be a 2-5 change. You could also kind of think about this in your minor mindset of playing a 1 minor chord to a 4 dominant chord. So similarly, you know, we're still playing a D minor 7 to a G7. And just to kind of give it the chordal approach, it's going to sound like this. And this is just like a super funky chord progression. This is used in like plenty of tunes to make something just like feel funky and grooving. You know, in different keys, they use this, but like in Chameleon, you have this kind of chord change. In Good Times by Chic, you know, this is kind of the thing. And the cool thing about it is the Dorian mode is something that you can use as a group of notes that works over those two changes. So you don't have to kind of change what you're doing so much as you resolve on like maybe the chord tone or the root note of the chord that you're going to. So if I were to play those two chords, Dorian mode kind of sounds really good over that. So it's really good for groove building. And so if you're kind of building a groove over just D to G, and you're going to say, oh, well, let me play my D minor and then the G major. Here all I'm doing is building a groove using the root note, the minor third of that chord, and then leading up to the G. You can also kind of throw a little fun chromatic guy in there. That's extra cool. And while it's not necessarily part of the mode, it works really well as that little like way to just give a little chromatic lead in to your G chord. But it's just like a great way to kind of traverse this chord progression and come up with grooves. So as you can see, I'm kind of just building something really simple at first. Going root to the minor third, landing on the G, and then playing the lower major third of that G chord, this B over here. I can kind of come up with something a little bit more complex if I decide to play more of the notes over the D. And it's just like a great way to build grooves. So as you're going to practice, think about first learning the notes of the Dorian mode, which thankfully, if we're in D Dorian, you're just going no sharps, no flats, walking it up D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, and realizing that you're essentially playing like a minor scale that has a major sixth in it. So if you take your regular natural minor and you go with the sixth, you can do that. And again, there are a lot of different ways to finger this scale, but I prefer either using this shape, where I'm starting on my index finger, playing index, ring, pinky, and then shifting a little bit, middle, pinky, index, middle, pinky. Or going and finding my minor third up here, and this shape would be starting with my pinky, index, middle, pinky, shifting up, pinky, index, middle, pinky. Those are great ways to kind of just get started with two basic fingerings for this Dorian mode. But, you know, it's great when you can play it forwards and backwards, remembering that you can kind of get this G over here. And if you were to walk up, you'd realize like, oh, here's my D, my open E is the second, my F is the minor third, and then I can land at G. Here's my A, B, C, and D. So all of these lower notes are fair game as well. What a groove! So you can kind of see how this is really helpful and useful for building a groove, and then also soloing. You know, if you want to go and kind of like play some cool thing, you can kind of get your way up the neck and kind of think about playing this D here and your G here and kind of giving it a little pizzazz. And there's a lot of fun stuff you can do. So this is just a little gateway into the Dorian mode, and I hope you dug this. Happy practicing, keep it groovy, check out that Patreon page for all the goodies to go along with this lesson, and have a great day.